Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. I don't know where this video is going to go, okay? It might ruffle some feathers. It's not intended to do that per se, but as ever, I gotta tell my truth, you know? I gotta tell things how I personally see it. So, I guess we'll just have to see the reaction at the end about what people think. But let's try and get people on my side to start with. First things first, as you can probably gather, the voice is in really good stead today. Yeah, having to keep it lubricated with H2O. But I'm feeling a lot better today. I went to the gym yesterday for the first time in 3 weeks. We did nothing. I was exhausted. I got home. I fell asleep for 8 hours, pretty much immediately. And then I woke up for a few hours, and then I fell asleep again, woke up this morning at 8:30. But I felt better for it. I felt better for getting out there. I felt stronger today. And the voice really feels like it's coming back in faster, you know, type of business. So, hi. Now let's piss people off. Okay, now let's get into the meat and potatoes of today's video. So, take two. I was going to say T2 Terminator 2 for a second. I saw T2. My brain just went off on a slight tangent. Take Two Interactive have announced that Borderlands 3 has sold 5 million copies within its first 5 days of release, which is absolutely obscene. I mean, those figures are colossal. Nobody can deny that. They are absolutely colossal. And I'll just start off by saying this is in spite of Randy Pitchford, who I know we can giggle and laugh about the guy, but the guy is quite clearly a raving narcissist. And doesn't come across as a particularly nice chap, for all intents and purposes. He's just stark raving bonkers. And he's tried very hard on a personal level to derail things over at Take Two. But he's been unsuccessful. And he's going to make a gazillion more pounds, gazillion more dollars, gazillion more ruples based off these sales. But of course, there was controversy that surrounded this title. We had the YouTube channel that was shut down after the person was visited, not by a flock of angels, visited by a couple of private detectives who were hired on behalf of Take Two Interactive to try and ascertain where he was getting constant leaks. Now, I got some backlash for my opinion about the guy. I stand by it 100%. When I listened to his response, he was using evasive language. He was twisting certain truths. He was essentially lying in some areas, just out and out. Things like, you know, people trespassing on his property. There weren't. People can come and knock on your door if you refuse them entry and they stayed. Then, you know, just certain things that attempted to make him look more the victim than I think he was. And the point that I was trying to make with him was there's an awful lot of coincidence surrounding the fact that this specific person kept getting all the leaks. Now, if he had a contact within Take Two, Gearbox, wherever, and they were feeding him, but that person was covered under an NDA, then just because he's feeding this other person, there could be ramifications. I wasn't ever inferring that the person himself was under an NDA. That's just silly. But if he had some sort of contact that's feeding information, that contact would have most likely been covered by an NDA, and so there would have been very specific circumstances. Sometimes leaks just get out there, but they get out there for the masses. But this person just kept getting them. So I'm not saying what Take Two did was good. I think sending private detectives to somebody's house to try and find out where some links were is ridiculous beyond comprehension. But I don't think this person themselves were also being 100% truthful. You know the saying, there's three sides to every story. One person's, the other person's, and then the truth somewhere in the, the truth's in the middle. So there was that. And then we had the, this is where I might get some, we had the Boycott Borderlands hashtag, which I thought was pathetic. Let's just be honest here. I thought it was pathetic. Why? Because, look, when you try and go out there and say, hey, people, boycott specific game, you are using a very specific morality. So if you're saying boycott Borderlands 3 because Take-Two shut down this person's channel, or because they sent private dicks, ladies, around to this person's house, but I'm not going to call for a boycott on, NHL 2K, which is a 3 rated plus, and a game for everybody that has literal casinos in it for children to gamble real life money, when there's normally a parental credit card attached to the account and they're not you get the drift, So when you say boycott this but don't boycott that, you're showing very selective morality, and it doesn't work, because you're always going to get questioned or called upon, well, why is this okay and that's not okay? That's why I personally go along the tact of I try and separate church, what I call church, from state. I try and separate the video game itself from the company that has produced it. And trust me, I get into situations where I have conflicting, conflicting feelings inside of me. Like, I've been desperately happy with Classic WoW, of course, but do I want to support Activision Blizzard as a company? No, not really. No, not really. I think they're scum. I think both of them are scum. Activision and Blizzard Entertainment. Both these companies. They used to be great. But now they are not. And so it's very difficult when you have a game that you love so dearly and you want to play it, but it's been made by that company who you don't want to support. I very rarely purchase a game that is associated with EA. I don't buy any of the annual franchises. I don't buy the CODs. I don't buy CODs Activision. Do beg your pardon. I think the last time I physically purchased an EA title was Battlefield 1. And then before then, I think it was Dragon Age Inquisition. So I try not to do certain things, but inevitably there are going to come moments where a game that you want to play is going to be in some way attached to maybe a company that you don't necessarily want to support. Now, I get, I'm not calling anyone out here. I get when people are just like, I don't care. I'm not going to give EA any of my money ever again. I'm not going to give Activision any of my money ever again. Hey, do you know what? Maybe you're stronger than me. Maybe you're a better person than I am. Maybe you got a better moral core than I have. I don't know. I don't know which way to kind of play it. But I personally try and just separate church from state when it comes to this. So the Boycott Borderlands always felt a bit egotistical to me. It all felt as a bit of let's get some spotlight on the hashtag, and not quite understanding the desire for people to play this title. Not quite understanding how popular a franchise Borderlands actually is, and how beloved a franchise actually is. And again, not quite understanding how long it's been since Borderlands 2 until Borderlands 3, which, something like 7 years now? Something along those kind of lines. So there's a substantial time to suddenly just come in there and say, haha, I'm going to inject my morality and let's try and get a boycott for Borderlands going. To me, it was always going to inevitably fail, and fail miserably. And I stressed this before, and I said this game is going to sell millions without any problem whatsoever. 5 million in 5 days, I am shocked about. Legitimately shocked about. I didn't think it would sell that much that quickly. I could easily see it selling 5, 10, 15 million units, but over a very, specific period of time. If you said it sold 5 million units in 2 months, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds legit. It sold 10 million units in 8 months, 12 months, whatever. Yeah, I get that. And then over the next year, 18 months on top of that, it sold another additional, 5 million units through various sales, whatever. So I can see that. But 5 million in 5 days. Then, of course, sorry, I know this is getting a little bit. Then, of course, we had the fact that this was also attached to the Epic Games Store and had a 6-month exclusive at the Epic Games Store before it even came out on Steam. And what is more interesting is 70% of the consumer purchasing for this was on PC, which is absolutely incredible for this. So it did like the strongest it's ever done with pre-orders. It smashed the Epic's Game current record, which, let's be honest, ain't going to be that difficult. Take a sip. And it's just broken sort of all kind of records across the board. So it's also shown that for all the issues that people have with the Epic Games Store, for all the problems that people have, and I'll go out there and say that I personally, excuse me, voice is now just starting to weaken a little bit. I still won't download it. I am still not going to touch the Epic Games Store. Not in its current state whatsoever. No thanks. I'll quite happily purchase a title that I want on console. Most likely PlayStation. Because I just think it's the better console of the two. But people clearly not been put off by the Epic Games Store. It's sold in its absolute droves. So, a success story doesn't quite cover it. Yeah, there was a little bit of weirdness, lots of good scores, and then there was that very weird low score by PC Gamer of, 63%, which was a bit bizarre. How did they get 63%? It didn't sort of marry in with everyone else's. Not that I'm saying there's any shenanigans necessarily. Looks like there's some sort of shenanigans going on. And I even myself put out feelers on Twitter when it came out and said, hey, anybody who's purchased Borderlands 3, can you tell me what you think of it? I was literally just open to listening to what people were going to say about it. A lot of people came back to me and said, I'll tell you in 6 months' time when it releases. People who obviously weren't happy with the Epic Games Store, but there were plenty of people that came back to me saying, either it's kind of like, it's more Borderlands. If you like Borderlands, you're going to have a good time. Other people coming back saying, yeah, great stuff. Put it this way, there was very, very little negativity to anyone that physically played the game. Plenty of negativity surrounding things like the Epic Games Store, things like Take-Two, etc. But very little negativity surrounding the actual game itself. And that's why I've always said, if people want to play a game, they'll play a game, regardless of what you say, what you try and push, etc. Now, just to wrap up the video, me personally, have I purchased it? No. Any particular reason why? No. Just that there's too much going on for me right now with other stuff. I'm playing WoW Classic. When I say when I want to, is when I want to interact with my audience. I'm coming, off this 3-week illness. And with WoW Classic, I've been playing that with my audience. So I still want to do that. So I haven't touched it in all my illness because I want to pick up from where I left off. And then to kind of fill the void, I've been on Destiny 2 and loving Destiny 2. And then when I'm lying down, ladies, in bed, on the Switch, I've got my the wonderful new Zelda game. Link's Awakening, which is just absolutely sublime. So I just don't have room at the moment for Borderlands 3. Will I eventually get it? Yeah. But I think it's one of those things I could probably wait till it comes on its first sale or so. We'll see how it does. But one final remark that I'd just like to make, because this is from Take-Two Interactive itself. When I've mentioned in other videos, this isn't a no. This is to kind of just make people aware. When I've mentioned other games in other videos, I do a lot of comparison with Twitch viewership. And I do get quite a few comments by people, and they are legitimate comments. They're not trolls, they're not being nasty, nothing. Legitimate comments saying, why do you hold so much weight in viewership? Viewership on Twitch doesn't translate to sales or anything like that. Absolutely. No, I totally agree. But look here. Borderlands 3 has already generated more than 14 million hours of content viewed on Twitch. More than half of the viewership of Borderlands 2 that generated in its 7-year lifespan. Also, Borderlands 3, as this is one major paragraph, claimed the top position on Twitch for most watched game on its launch day and has maintained its position as a top 5 most wanted game since launch. Now, it's dropped significantly now. It's nowhere near the top 5. We're kind of looking at top 25. It's somewhere in the top 25, maybe. By the way, World of Warcraft still in the top 3. It's number 2 right now. You go classic, WoW. So it shows that this is something that games companies do. They are very, very interested in. They are intrigued about eyes on the product. Because eyes on the product can translate into sales. Eyes on the product can translate into, a more positive outlook on the game itself. So they do look at viewerships, very much so. That's why I mention this a lot. Games companies do have a very, very sharp eye on what their game, whether or not their games are being viewed, and that's why things like Anthem, for instance, can I see how many people are currently playing Anthem? 66. Watching. 66 people are watching streams of Anthem right now. You know what I mean? Dead game. They've quite clearly said it's dead, etc. So yeah, viewership on things like Twitch is very important indeed. So let's wrap this up. Unbelievable sales for Borderlands 3. The boycott did nothing, as I expected, because when people are interested in a beloved franchise, they're going to buy that game. What was interesting, though, to see is how people just didn't care that it was out on the Epic Games Store for its 6-month exclusive. They were quite happy to still get their hands on the game if they wanted it for PC through that method, and that translated into huge sales that way. Viewership's good, even though it's dipping very quickly. It was good. Very interesting all round. So, I don't know where we went with this video or how it's going to be received, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming. Links are in the description box down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.